Welcome to Filling You In, a dental podcast with A Squared, where dentist entrepreneurs and spouses, Dr. Anushka Gaglani and Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj, welcome industry experts and innovators to explore trends in business practices, patient care, career development, and what it takes to be successful in dentistry.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Filling You In. I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani, collectively known as A Squared. As we've heard from other guests on the podcast, the slowdown in rapid acquisitions in dentistry due to high interest rates and other challenges has resulted in more focus on same-store growth. For a closer look at this trend, we turn today to Santosh Patel, Chief Revenue Officer at Subscribely and co-founder and board member of Complete Specialty Solutions.
Santosh has over 20 years of large-scale operations experience in the medical and dental industries. Currently, he's focused on helping DSO, group, and solo practices grow through technology-driven, operationally sound strategies. And we're looking forward to diving into some of those details today. Santosh, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. I really appreciate it.
The pleasure is ours. Let's dive in with our first question we've been itching to ask you. You've been involved in managing healthcare practices for most of your career. What got you interested in doing that at a younger age, and how did you make that transition into the dental space?
Yeah, it's kind of like everyone else as they're growing up, going to college, seeing different mentors, different individuals in their lives who've had different careers. I actually had a family friend who is a chief medical officer at a large hospital in California, and I live in Texas. I live in Dallas, and so over the summer, I actually spent 2 weeks with him at his hospital, and he invited me to different meetings, and I was just absolutely just amazed by the difficult conversations he was having to have, but then the problems that he was solving for the greater good of the hospital system and the patients and the team members there. So I just immediately got intrigued by it. So actually, even as I was flying back home, I was looking up programs for my master's in healthcare administration. I was really convinced that was a path for me. It was a balance of understanding organization. It was a balance of not necessarily running away from difficult conversations, right? Like being that firefighter of conversations, like instead of running away, running to. I enjoyed that. And so I was really encapsulated in that moment. And so that got me into the healthcare industry, and I had incredible mentors when I jumped into the hospital space that gave me opportunity to learn and grow and really test myself in different areas of my skill sets. And so, that really got me involved at an early age into the healthcare industry as a whole.
That sounds like a heavy lift too, even for your family member who was a CMO. So that's great that you got that experience at that age.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, very, very fortunate to have that.
Yeah. So about 8 years ago, you moved from physician practices to the dental space. And what was behind that change?
Yeah, so, I think some folks have heard this story. My wife's a general dentist, and we had a practice in Houston. And as I was building multi-specialty practices, I was helping her with an emergency patient on a Saturday. And as she's assisting the patient the best she can, and I'm trying to assist the best way I can as a dental assistant, which I probably wasn't doing a great job. She told the patient, really, I'm going to have to refer you to an oral surgeon. And the very first thing the patient says was, well, why can't I do that here? And it just started, the thought process of, is there some fragmentation in the industry, in the medical world where, we understand that there's patient compliance by having everything in one place, right? And really integrated specialty helps patients really go through their journey of care. And understanding that really was a gap within the dental industry. And so that's where essentially took a leap of faith and try to dive into solving that problem.
Right on. And Santosh, you said something about being fragmented, right? We all know dental is fairly fragmented, not as much as it was like maybe 10 or 15 years ago.
Right.
It's consolidating at a pretty rapid pace. And one of the challenges that comes with consolidation is how do solo dentists or group practices, how do they continue to grow their practices at a fast clip without having all the sophistication that essentially a private equity-led group would have? So what's your take on the trend of same-store growth, and what do you think, how big a factor is it these days? Do you think it will continue?
I do think it's going to continue. I think same store growth is going to stay for a while, right? I think prior to COVID, the markets were growing, they're changing. It was really an arbitrage. Right? Let's go out and just go buy more practices, grow top line revenue, and EBITDA and profitability will follow eventually over time, right? We'll figure it out. But when everyone had to hit the pause button, and really it came down to what's my revenue versus what my expenses, everyone recognized that, okay, now we need to have sustainable growth, and going back down to the fundamentals of how do you operate the business, how you look at the business. And we were guilty of that as well. When we were building our specialty business, we were grow, hyper focused on really just top line, numbers, but then we're adding team members, we're adding inefficiencies early on where COVID really hit a reset button. And I used to be an educator before I jumped into the healthcare industry, and I realized those same skill sets and traits that we use in the hospital space, we just didn't build it in the dental industry. And so taking a step back and looking at, well, how do you build same store? Well, the first step is building your own learning management system. And what do you want to rinse and repeat, right? And from that rinse and repeat, not everybody's going to be a good fit at each stage of your growth and your projections of growth. And so sometimes you have to have those challenging conversations to say, okay, you helped us get to this point, but you can't help us get to the next point. And, we had to do that from treatment coordinators to dental assistants to operators. And really it was all about making sure we have the right team members to help us in the path to continue to grow. And so, to your point on same store, same store is just a common phrase. Everyone's using it right now, right? But ultimately, it means fundamentals. Let's go back to our fundamentals. Let's understand what's growing, what's working. Let's not keep doing A, B, C, D test, right? Like, let's make sure we've tested it and let's move fast on it. And I think you're seeing more and more groups are being hyper focused on profitability and patient experience, right? Tying both in the same realm. And really just saying, okay, we know this works. Let's rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I think one of the things with dentistry, right, we can have exponential and linear moves, but the reality is there's not a whole lot that changes, right? We're working on the same thing. We're working on people, and just like you said, rinse and repeat. Just get the processes down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for us, we built a learning management system. So again, during COVID, coming out of COVID, that was the prime time to do it. So we built our playbooks and our learning management system and a bunch of sound bites, right? And so if you also look at most operating manuals and systems, if they're large SOPs and they're books of information, well, is that how our team currently digests information? It's not. If I need to go fix something, I'm not going to the owner's manual to go fix it. I'm going to YouTube to fix it. And I really hope that video is less than 5 minutes, right? So that's how we had to reconstruct our learning management system, is to really think about who is our end user and what is it that we want them to be able to replicate based on action and video. And again, that's something really easy to then delete and replace whenever you have any changes and updates.
Yeah, it's such a smart way to look at it. It's, I think one of the phrases that we've heard over and over is, how many times does it take for you to tell someone to do something before they actually get it? And the answer is 7 times.
Yep.
But videos, like you said, so much easier, digestible, and with the attention span of people these days, we can't have, like you said, these long SOPs. So
I think we try to move away from the phrase training and more along the lines of check for understanding. And so I can train you all day, right? And I can check that box to say that I trained you. But if you're not demonstrating that you are hearing what I am saying, then ultimately it's not going to work, right? So let's go through the role play. Let's make sure that you feel comfortable in that step, and then you can continue to progress.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get into some of the key tactics that practices are employing around same-store growth and how Subscribely fits into this picture. I know building sustainable systems around revenue cycle management is a go-to tactic. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so, jumping over from complete specialty to over Subscribely, we had several mutual customers, and what we continued to see was high revenue cases. Patients were either uninsured or underinsured, right? And if you really take a step back and look at the economy and country as a whole, more people are moving into that gig wage economy, right? Like they are picking up 2 part-time jobs, or they want some flexibility in driving for Uber or Lyft. And well, many of those don't offer the same, medical dental benefits as other employers do, right? And so more patients are coming in and they're uninsured. And sometimes there's a stigma, right? Like if you think about it, whenever you used to call a dental office and you want to schedule an appointment, what's the first question they would ask you? What insurance are you using, right?
Yeah.
And you just feel guilty in saying, oh, I don't have insurance, right? Like you feel like already an outsider, coming into this practice. So you want to change the narrative of that, and I've been incredibly impressed by the team at Subscriber when it comes to, it's not just membership; it's really a patient journey and solution. And so leveraging technology is where really, obviously, the industry is moving, simply because we have to make it easier for patients, one, to schedule an appointment, right? We absolutely have to make it easy for them to schedule an appointment. We have to give them viable options if they don't have an insurance plan. I mean, most practices that we run into are 10 to 15% uninsured, right? That's not that's not touching the underinsured, where their maximum benefits are $1,000 and they maybe get, 1 cleaning or 1 exam a year, right, within their benefit plan. So, 10 to 15%, sometimes you listen to an office and say, oh, that's not a high percentage. Oh, I don't have a high percentage of uninsured. Well, your MetLife or your Cigna is probably not 10, 15%. But if you lost that patient base, you'd be really upset. So, thinking about, okay, now we are creating an easier, more compliant way to integrate technology. But you also don't want that, what we call swivel chair API, right? Where you are using technology and we're saying it's integrated, but then you're also using 2 or 3 different computers to type in the technology information, right? So it's really creating more work back on the team. So taking a step back and looking at, okay, well, what is same-store growth? Same-store is something that's rinse and repeat. How do you rinse and repeat? You rinse and repeat by having a system that's incredibly easy for team members to use, right? And so being able to construct a membership plan that's customizable, one, for your practice, for your patient needs, is critical. Determine what plan, price, exclusions that you want, but then also ensure that it's actually integrated into the practice management system. And, human error is a common issue. And also think about, most practices, coming out of COVID in the last couple of years, the front desk, the RDA team has been evolving, right, and changing. And so some individuals are, moving between practices or they're moving just cities. So you have 2 new team members that are coming in. So how do you make the technology purpose should be to make everything easier, not more complex. And that's really the vision of it, right? And you tie that into a payments platform. So how can we make it easier for patients to be able to pay? It's funny, I heard something that said, no longer do we ask individuals, do you accept Apple Pay, right? Like almost every business we go to now, anywhere we shop, they all accept Apple Pay. But yet we ask that question in healthcare practices. That's interesting. Why do we ask that question? Everyone should be able to accept Apple Pay and Google Pay and HSA cards. And then the last piece of kind of that experience journey is, and as like one of the pieces of our specialty business was the referral tracking system, right? And so when you're referring a patient, where are they going? And did they go? Did they actually go to the office you wanted them to go to? And if they did, are they coming back to your practice for the restorative work? And so that's a big part of where Subscriber is really tied into the same store is, they built products on the scheduling side, they built products obviously on the membership side, they built products on the payment side, and now we're incorporating our referral tracking, right, as well. So, thinking through all of that is driving patient retention and revenue. And the beauty with this component is you're not dependent on insurance approvals, right? You're not looking for authorizations. You're not, getting denials. You're not pushing out that cash flow to actually generate money into the business that's going to pay all the bills that you've had to even open up the doors. And so that's been a huge value add in, practices thinking about how creating more of these custom plans, even for groups who want to move towards a fee-for-service model, right? Maybe they're not going to commit 100% to a fee-for-service model, but it's inevitable if you ask any dentist in any group practice, what is one insurance company you'd love to drop? I mean, without fail, they know. They know in the back of their mind, they know it in their soul, right? Like they know exactly who they want to drop. So the next question is, well, how are you going to replace that patient base? Like, what are you going to give that patient so they're still part of your practice? And if you don't have the solution for that, then that's really going to be disheartening for that patient base.
Santosh, you hit on a lot of really good points here. Going back to Subscribely being an in-house membership plan, aside from the other products that they're starting to offer, what data do you have that shows that having an in-house membership plan like Subscribely will help retain patients? Generally, what's the general consensus? What's the data?
Yeah, so the data, the best data is really long-term value, right? Like, and so if you look at any analytics through your practice management system, accounting systems, you ultimately just want to look at what is my LTV, my long-term value of this patient. And so the data that we have over the last several years of working with clients is patients spend on average 25% more member patients spend 25% more than PPO patients do. And that's because there's not this perceived ceiling of, oh, your insurance only covers this amount, right? So now the perception of, hey, your insurance only covers this, maybe come back next year and let's start it again, right? Now it's, hey, you need this care, you have this availability, let's go ahead and get this done, right? So that's been a huge piece. And again, because of that flexibility and ability to really get your care and get your needs, there's that retention, right? It's just like any other industry, consumer industry, membership matters, right? Why does Netflix do it? Why does Costco do it, right? It creates that sense of unity and loyalty. The other piece is when you think about your non-members, and this stat actually blew me away, your non-members, your uninsured non-members versus your insured or your uninsured members. Your uninsured subscribed members spend 2.5 times more than your uninsured non-members.
That's big.
Because it's like, if it's go to Costco or don't go to Costco, right? And so when you go to Costco, you're there. You're there and you're spending. And you're happily spending because you want to make the best value of, your membership, right? And so, when you think about it as consumers, it's something in the non-healthcare space has always made sense. And one great example in the healthcare space is research One Medical, right? So One Medical really is, once acquired by Amazon, has really transitioned more into that subscription, concierge, VIP model, and consumers, patients love it. And their revenue has grown tremendously. Their patients has their NPS score has continued to grow. It's simply because they've realized that the patients want to be part of this network.
Wow. Yeah, that's big data. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, and I think you've been following us to Costco, so you got to stop.
Amazon Prime,
Like we can't leave Costco without spending $300.
It's difficult. I'm waiting for when Target has a membership plan.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No. No, and that's a good point, right? Because Target doesn't have that. I just realized I haven't been to Target in probably 2 years.
Yeah. And it's something simple, right? Amazon started with I think like $49. I mean, $49 a year, $29 a year when they first started, right? It's something real basic. But it hooks you in, and then you think about that across the board. If that's revenue, then that's meaningful revenue that starts to add up.
Absolutely. So, Santosh, as you know, there's a seemingly endless list of new technologies that practices can choose from on both the operational and clinical side. When it comes to operations, what advice are you giving to your clients on how to best utilize the various AI and automation tools out there?
So I love that question. We're actually hosting a operator conference simply because, everything I look at is through an operator lens, and there's tons of technology. I mean, you go to any conference and any event out there, you're going to see 15 AI tools. I went to Chicago midwinter, and I think I counted 12 AI receptionists that were exhibiting, right? I mean, there was a ton. And so how do you decipher between who really understands it and who are going to be the best players? One of the biggest pieces is really understanding who is going to train and check for understanding with your team. And I think that's a big component of it, right? Like you can always look at who's advancing their technology, but who is genuine when they're talking about what they're currently building and what's on the roadmap, right? It's easy. It's always easy to say, yeah, we do that. Yeah, we do that. Yeah, we do that. And that's really where trust gets burned. And that goes not just from the leadership standpoint, but it goes actually from the team members who are utilizing the end users. Because if they're promised, because from the level of the vendor telling the leadership, hey, we do this, and then the leadership telling the team members, the end users, hey, this product's going to do this, and when the end user starts to use it and realize that is false and that is untrue, they've lost trust, they've lost buy-in, right? And so, I think from an operator lens is really thinking about, are we including our end user into that assessment process, and then understanding how is that training and onboarding and implementation process going to go? I think, and I've seen this just over both in medical and dental. One of the strategies for all groups is to get the cheapest price, right? And the cheapest price sometimes means, hey, we want you to waive your onboarding costs, and we want you to waive your implementation costs. And unfortunately, sometimes that's where corners are cut, right? And you want to actually think about, okay, we're gonna commit to you. We want you to commit to us, and we want to bring in our end users, and we want to have a good understanding of how this product goes through the sandbox and in a workflow before we go live with the product. Those 2-week demos and try this product for 2 weeks and try this AI for 2 weeks. I don't think it's not meaningful enough. Because what you want is you'd rather have 3 30-minute phone calls to go over, or video calls to go over the product with somebody, and turn the Google Share to them and let them play with it, and you can watch them play with it and figure out, okay, now navigate this way, help them build their confidence in using it, and then I think that's where you'll start to get buy-in in AI.
Yeah.
And also, like, this was, something small that we did, and we didn't realize how much of an impact it had, but we actually had a group session where I had everyone, and this was about maybe a year and a half ago, I had everyone download ChatGPT if they weren't already using it.
Yeah.
And I had them go through and say, okay, in here, put a prompt that says, please come up with a recipe and meal for this evening's dinner, and here are the 5 ingredients I have in my fridge. And they had to put whatever they thought they had in their fridge. And eyes were like, shot wide open when they realized, like, oh, this actually works. And then they start playing with it more, right? And then I think that's what opened their eyes to, okay, technology can really help. And, I think, the CEO from Shopify sent something out. And, he said a letter to his entire organization that if you're not using AI, you're probably not going to be here very long, because we have to be able to adapt, and we have to understand. And to send emails now that are not at least wordsmithed through AI, is difficult.
Yeah. And I think something that you
absolutely.
said resonates, right? It's just the best, you can have the best technology, but if they aren't going to support you in your check for understanding piece, then what's the point? Then that technology is just going to collect a bunch of dust, and nobody's using it in a dental practice. And we know how much more expensive it is when you pay for something and nobody's using it, right?
Well, that's a cost, right? Like buying it and not using it. I would tell you a cost that goes unseen is the fact that when you buy a technology and you don't use it, and the leadership has accepted that it's okay not to use it. Because if I don't use it, if I don't use it as much, maybe we'll just won't use it at all. And then that will be the same thing when we bring the next technology in, right? So if you look at the groups who do extremely well with technology adoption, it's because 1, they get the end users bought in, and then 2, this is how we operate, right? This is exactly how we operate. This is our workflow. This is our, going back to learning management system, this is our system. And this is the product we're going to use as part of our system. And if we start to tolerate, not allowing us to use those systems, then we're tolerating future challenges in adoption in other technology.
That is such a great point. Just yesterday we were having a meeting with our operations team, and This is one of the things we told them, that we have standards and people in the company have to rise to those standards rather than us dropping our standards and then having everything be status quo. So I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, you just think about restaurants, right? If a restaurant did not deliver their food in a consistent way and did not, bring it to the table in a certain type of experience, what's going to happen to that team member? Right? They're no longer a part of that restaurant, right? And they'll make that decision quick. We sometimes in the healthcare industry feel, well, this is a skill, this is a trade, it's going to be hard to replace. So we hold on a little bit longer, but that actually sends the wrong message to the rest of the teams.
Yeah,
You're
definitely. And
absolutely
we've been
right
guilty
about
of that.
that.
Absolutely.
Oh,
It's a
everyone
hard
is. I'm
lesson
guilty.
to learn.
It's easy for me to say this, right? But I mean, we've all been guilty of it, but it's good to have that reminder and refresher.
Yeah.
You're right. You're
Most
right.
stuff. And it's interesting. Once that person is gone, you find all of the stuff that wasn't being done, even more so than you thought. So yeah, that's totally can relate to that.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. We've all had that. Santosh, how do you think dental practices will change over the next 5 years if you had a crystal ball in front of you?
I reference One Medical, right? I definitely think you're going to see more dental practices reduce their dependency on insurance, create more of their own membership plan, concierge medicine, right? I do think you're going to see, you're going to continue to see consolidation in the space. I don't think that's going to change. I think Brian Kaleo does a great job of talking about how that's rapidly changing, how same-store growth is going to impact consolidation as well. But you're also seeing buy-in from doctor owners, right? And so it's not just I'm selling an organization and now I'm a W-2 employee and I'm walking away. It's I still have skin in the game, still my reputation, still my name as part of the business. I think historically you used to see more groups sell closer to the end of their career, right? And I think over the next 10 years, and you've seen this over the last 4 or 5 years, and MB2 is a great example of this, groups are really consolidating when doctor owners are, still in their prime of dentistry. And so they're able to work more efficiently, learn best practices, have that abundance mindset, and they still want to be able to work, and but doing it in a way that, again, is collaborative. And so I think you're going to continue to see consolidation. I think it's going to look a little different. But and then of course AI. I mean, there's got to be a level of trust, and I'm not saying AI from just the dental practice standpoint, right?
Yeah.
Think about how much knowledge a patient's going to have coming in. You don't think that in a year from now, a patient's going to email you and ask you for a copy of their x-rays, and they're not going to throw that into a chat GPT and say, do I have a cavity on number 4? Right? Like that's going to happen. It's inevitable. And so the level of trust that we have to meet that level of sophistication to the patient to earn trust from them. And so we have to start thinking about how are patients going to not just trust, but verify what we're saying is accurate.
Anushka, I don't know about you, but I had a moment of clarity when Santosh was saying that patients are going to throw their x-rays in ChatGPT. I think that's a great way to tell our doctors, if you guys don't use AI in these x-rays, patients are going to go find out that you missed a bunch of stuff. I just had that moment of clarity when you said that.
I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love it. Cool. Santosh, we do a lightning round.
Okay.
So you fire away.
Oh, all right. Here we go.
1, 2, 3 answers. What was your last impulse buy?
Yeah, my last impulse, I guess I would say, we, as a family, we went to Munich. And so, just going out there and doing, we do our family trips every May. And so being able to find one of the cities that we want and just buy a ticket quickly without planning too much, just buy the ticket and then eventually plan everything else around it. So,
Love it.
I'm bigger on experience than I am on materials. And so that's a big piece for me, my personal belief. And so that would probably be my biggest impulse. Yeah, it was between Munich and like Croatia and even Iceland. And so we found an opportunity to go out there. It was good.
Wow.
That counts.
Yeah.
That sounds
It's a great
like a lot of
impulse
fun.
buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really. What are the least likely 3 words someone would use to describe you?
What are the least likely words?
Yeah.
Least likely 3 words someone would use to
Least
describe
likely.
you.
All right. I would say one least likely word is dishonest and disingenuous. Yeah, I
I
think
would agree
even
with
if it's
that.
even if it's not something you want to hear, I'm not going to lie to you, right? I would say lazy would be a least likely word, right? And let's see what else. I'll say inconsiderate. Yeah, those are the least likely words I would say.
Yeah, I would vouch for all three. I would add that somebody would not call you not resourceful because you are one
Yeah.
of the
No,
most
appreciate
resourceful
it.
people that we
And
met.
helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely very, very helpful. Always willing to lend a helping hand.
You
That's
know,
something that's
I will
such a-
tell you that's something I really picked up from the medical world. And
Yeah.
the medical world is very much of the abundance mindset. And I think the dental industry has really kind of transformed, especially with, events like, DEO and Document, different conferences that are happening, out there that people are just willing to share more, which is great.
Love it. Love it. Santosh, thank you so much for joining us today. The honor was truly ours. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thank you both for having me. And I love what you guys are doing with this, really getting just real information out there to really help, again, groups as they decipher, how do they perceive what the future is going to be.
We
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani. Thanks for checking out today's show, and we hope you can join us again next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Filling You In, where we uncover the insights, trends, and stories shaping the dental industry. If you like this podcast, please share it on your social channels and visit Areo Dental Group on LinkedIn or on Instagram @Areo Dental Group. You can also subscribe to the series and check out all of our episodes on this YouTube channel or at areodental.com/podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and let's keep elevating the dental field together.